Donald Trump has made promises, and those promises are threats. Listen to them, heed them, understand them, and don't let anybody tell you that American weakness is being driven by the Biden administration when our weakness is lit up like the Taj Mahal in Atlantic City before the bankruptcy that was. It is June the 18th, 140 days to go. This is the warning. 9 days to go until the CNN debate between the convicted felon, Donald Trump, and the President of the United States, Joe Biden. There are indicators in some polls that there has been an impact in states like Michigan, where Donald Trump has slipped behind Joe Biden for the first time in a long while, with the president now slightly up, a half-point lead. Objectively, everybody should understand that the president and Trump remain locked in an even race in a game of small numbers that will play out over a small number of states and a handful of counties over a few dozen precincts. This election for president is going to come down to the wire once again. But there is a chasm between the candidates, and that chasm must be addressed openly and honestly, because there are many bad faith arguments being made. There's an old saying, sometimes you get the bear, and sometimes the bear gets you. It's important to understand the concept because the waves are crashing in on the Biden campaign again. The president is senile hits were put to bed for a while after the State of the Union address, where the president was forceful, quick on his feet, interacting with the MAGA audience, defenestrating the nonsense hurled at him. But that has all abated now. Each day, there is a proliferation of new videos, news reports, smears dressed up as news reports, like the Wall Street Journal smear that portrayed President Biden as senile, the New York Post smear that portrays the president as out of touch, frozen, unable to function during a European summit. The distorted images that are being used to drive this narrative occurred when the president turned around away from the other leaders to look at a parachutist who had just landed. The president was interacting with that man when Prime Minister Maloney turned the president around and directed his attention back towards the main group of parachutists who had landed in front of the G7 leaders. Nevertheless, a picture is worth 1,000 words. In an era where that picture can be sent around the world and be distorted in a nanosecond by tens of millions of touches, it's a huge problem, a political problem for the president. There was an enormously successful fundraiser in Los Angeles for President Biden. It was hosted by the comedian Jimmy Kimmel. President Obama was in attendance. At the end, video of the president gazing out into the audience, interacting with it, was manipulated, shown on social media to depict a president who was wandering, faltering, senile, frozen, like Mitch McConnell was a few months back. Do you remember this? But that's not what's happened here. But it didn't stop the British scumbag, Piers Morgan, Meghan Markle's professional stalker, from deceptively weighing in, making an accusation against the president on behalf of his friend, to whom he was a bootlicker as an apprentice contestant not so many years ago. By the way, Piers Morgan is precisely the reason these media stories about the editors and publishers at the Washington Post are such a big deal. The Washington Post is an American institution of profound importance to the United States, and it is being desecrated with people of the most loathsome character. Rupert Murdoch's lying British henchmen who desecrated the truth for profit in their British newsrooms. And that is not a model we should ever want to see in the United States. Piers Morgan is a dishonest hack, a bottom feeder of the most exquisite variety. He is a template for the dishonesty of an era in tabloid journalism that sensationalizes as opposed to seeking understanding and explication. Stupidity all the time, always aimed at the lowest common denominator. Piers Morgan is a blustering fool, but his observations are seen and spread by somebody like Bill Ackman, who makes this argument following on Piers Morgan's smear of the president, calling on Democrats to remove him. Again, there is no freezing. It didn't happen. Different camera angles show different things. But the Bill Ackman argument deserves a response. Let me put on screen what the opinionated billionaire has said. The Biden campaign should understand this and should face the argument because it is growing and it is rooting and it has to be countered by direct action. This isn't something that can be fixed from the podium of the press secretary. It's not something that can be fixed by complaint. Oh, national media, stop being so cruel to us. It can't be litigated in phone calls to newsrooms. Only the President of the United States can deal with this. This is a performance issue. Can you do it or not type of issue? And what President Biden needs to do is to put this to rest by walking out onto the debate stage and talking about what is the real signal of American weakness. And this is what Bill Ackman does not seem to understand. What is driving the stigma and stench of American decay and weakness is the deterioration of the faith in the American idea and ideal about liberty and freedom and pluralism. The foundation of the country, its keystone, its cornerstone, is the idea that the American people are sovereign. No one is above the law, and the people decide, citizens decide through a vote who will be granted temporary, limited, lawful power to create and execute the laws under the Constitution of the United States of America, to which they swear an oath of allegiance. And in particular, the President of the United States swears a 35-word oath prescribed in the Constitution that promises to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. But when Donald Trump lost an election, he did this. Republicans became MAGAs, fascists. And what they did is breach a tradition that stretched all the way back to George Washington's greatest act of humility, the walking away from political power so a free nation could rise. It is appalling. But make no mistake, what drives a perception of American weakness is the craziness of Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. Our enemies, when they look at Trump, see weakness, not strength. Our opponents, when they look at Trump, cheer for him. They do not fear him. We are at a time of growing chaos and menace in the world. Listen to Donald Trump's threats. When Vladimir Putin sees this, he sees the decay that makes him certain that he will get a better deal, better territories, a better outcome when Trump is president again. We live in a world where the blind are leading the blind. And that's very dangerous. Great questions are on the ballot. The deficiencies of the candidates are what they are. But there is a difference of the most profound dimensions. Joe Biden wasn't out to lunch in Normandy, France. Joe Biden said historic things there. Let's listen to him talk about democracy and fill the shoes of Ronald Reagan.
Every one of them knew the probability of dying was real, but they did it anyway. They knew beyond any doubt there are things that are worth fighting and dying for. Freedom is worth it. Democracy is worth it. America is worth it. The world is worth it. Then, now, and always.
Donald Trump wouldn't go and honor the graves of America's war dead in Europe. He desecrated their sacrifice, like he desecrated his oath. He talked about shooting peaceful protesters in the Oval Office. And what Bill Ackman doesn't seem to understand is there is no act of weakness from an American president that is conceivably greater than that, because it signals that we're breaking from within in a slow motion suicide that our enemies could never have brought to us, but that we are doing to ourselves, walking away from our history, walking away from the sacrifices that expanded freedom. Day after day, there are more degradations against decency, against good from the MAGA fascists. Fascism has come to America, and like was once predicted, is carrying a cross wrapped in the flag, like it was in 1938. What Donald Trump is Charles Lindbergh. What Donald Trump is Viktor Orban. What Donald Trump is the end of America. We all get to vote on that in 140 days. Donald Trump has made promises, and those promises are threats. Listen to them, heed them, understand them, and don't let anybody tell you that American weakness is being driven by the Biden administration, when our weakness is lit up like the Taj Mahal in Atlantic City before the bankruptcy that was. Our national cancer is Trump. Our decay is Trump. Our threat is Trump. Our weakness is Trump, not Biden. That is something that even the dumbest amongst us should be able to see quite clearly. This is The Warning. I'm Steve Schmidt. This is The Warning, and I invite you to subscribe on our Substack, on our YouTube channel. Follow us. Welcome to the community.